All right, what's up, everybody? This is the unofficial first episode of The Commute, and really this is just a test. I'm just going to make sure that everything's working. I got 3 cameras in the car. This is just going to make sure that all the cameras work, my mic and all that works, and of course the process of editing it whenever I get into the office work. So welcome to the first unofficial episode, the unofficial first episode of The Commute, a podcast for small town filmmakers. Hope you stick around. Here's the intro sequence and all that crap, and then we'll get into a little bit of why I'm doing this. So, why am I doing an unofficial first episode? I don't know if every podcast does this. This is just the best way that I could figure out to do it. So, fun fact, if you want to start a podcast, you can't just upload podcasts to YouTube or Spotify and Apple. You have to go through a third-party service. So I'm using something called Podbean. And I can't accurately make sure that my podcasts are on those, Spotify and Apple and Audible and all that without having an episode to upload onto it. So I'm using this as a test. Plus, testing your stuff it makes good sense. There's going to be a whole episode on testing and how to test your gear and how to test your processes and stuff like that. But we'll get into that during that episode. I wanted to use this unofficial episode, just to kind of explain what this podcast is. So this podcast is for any small town creative. It's for filmmakers, photographers, digital marketers, any industry or a company that requires creativity and is considered a creative business. There's going to be something for you in this podcast. I myself am a photographer turned filmmaker. I owned a photography company a few years ago. Actually, probably at this point it's 6 or 7 years ago. Now I own a videography company, filmmaking company that is thriving, and I have found I'm self-taught. This is all going to be touched on in the first episode, or getting released October 23rd, but like I said, this is a test. I'm self-taught, so everything I've learned has come from YouTube, podcasts, books, trial and error, all that stuff. With that being said, I live in Charleston, West Virginia. There is not a large filmmaking market here or really anywhere near me. The closest one might be DC. It's definitely Atlanta. I think there's a small film market in Cleveland, but nothing really around me. So I got tired of all the podcasts and stuff and books that gave advice on how to thrive in LA and how to thrive in New York and Atlanta and these big giant film markets where everyone understands the value of media, and whether that be photo or video. So I've had to learn how to adjust those things I've learned through those resources, and make it for a small town. Because there's just not a lot going on, but most of America is small town. So I hope that there's a lot of people like me out there that are trying to make it as filmmakers, and maybe think that there is a way to better your business. There's processes you think you could have and that kind of stuff, strategies for growth and social media and all that, and a lot of times these big market stuff just doesn't work in the small town market. And if it works for you, that's great. I have found that for every piece of advice for big market creatives, the small town creatives, the things I've picked up on, I've had to adjust. So that's what this is. And then I also always wanted, since I'm self-taught, I've always wanted something to teach me like the basics. Now, when I say basics, I don't mean the triangle, the ISO and aperture and shutter, like all that stuff. We know that. That's like day one. But I mean the stuff as far as running a business goes, the basics of business management, creative business management, and what clients look for in these sort of creative spaces. Now, why is it called The Commute? I work at WCHS, which is a news station here in Charleston, West Virginia. And before this, I worked for 5 years in software development. It paid great, but I was very unfulfilled. I didn't get what I wanted. I really didn't like, it was remote. I didn't like logging in for work. And I got laid off, along with about 10 or 15 other people. I got laid off of work. They downsized and my position was eliminated. So my wife and I decided that this was a perfect opportunity to go after what I want to do, because I don't want to do something I don't want to do, if I can help it. So for about 3 or 4 months, we really hit my company, Eagle Eye Productions. We hit Eagle Eye hard and really planned for it and built it. It was a good few months. But I am one who needs security, and there's no shame in that. In this industry, everyone loves to say freelance and, do your own thing and that kind of deal. And that went around my head. I don't want to be the guy that has to rely on something for a paycheck. But I like the security of having a W-2 job. So I got this job. Pure happenstance. I have a little bit of experience in news. But honestly, my experience as a filmmaker is what really got me this job, I believe. So I knew I wanted to start a podcast, and now with this job, I'm not going to have time to sit down and dedicate, an hour or whatever of time to making the podcast. So I decided, with the help of a friend, I'm going to do this on my commute to work. I'm not going to have a co-host, which kind of sucks. My mic is messed up. See, this is why you test. Put on my seatbelt. How about that? Look at that. Changing mics and merging onto the highway. That's really the way to go. So yeah, I wanted to do something where I could teach what I've learned, and a podcast seemed like the easiest and best way to go at this point. Eventually, I'd love to teach a class or something, but right now it's this is what I got. So got some traffic coming up here. This is a good time for me to introduce the cameras. We got the A-Cam here, which is my iPhone on horizontal. And then we got a B-Cam up here, which is a GoPro Hero 10 that I got specifically for this podcast, but I'm also going to use it for BTS content. And we have the Rode Cam. Right now it's inside, just over the rain and all that. I felt like the footage wouldn't be very good, so we're doing just inside the windshield. But with this traffic, you'll be able to see that. It's going to have a real cash cab vibe to it, minus all the money. So yeah. The Commute is literally a podcast about filmmaking and creative business that I'm going to do while on my commute to work. My work is, depending on traffic and stuff, it's 18 to 22 minutes away, so each episode will be about that long. It's standard. For the bigger segments, I will have a second part of the episode. It'll all be wrapped into one episode, but I'll have a second part, which will be my commute home at 12:30 at night, or 12 o'clock at night. So this has been the test, and I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. If you have friends that are creatives, we're going to talk about everything in here, man. We're going to talk about the tie between filmmaking and the tie and into videography, and how oftentimes those are going to coincide. It's going to be hard to start a business and only do filmmaking, especially in the small towns. You got to make money. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about filmmaking and tying into videography and vice versa. We're going to talk about photography. We're going to talk about my successes and failures as a business owner. We're going to talk about my favorite projects. We're going to talk about movies, not that I've made, just movies. We're going to have guests in here that are going to help us learn how to create a good, well-rounded business, and everything in between. So if you are a filmmaker, if you're a creative, if you're a photographer, if you're a creative business owner, freelance, you have your own production company, anything like that, this is the podcast for you. I hope you tune in for the first episode of The Commute. It's getting released this coming Monday, October 23rd.
Thinking of things that you should have done. See you again, my loved one.